How do I make sure I'm getting the grades I want? How do I know I've included enough readings? What does my lecturer want from me? These are questions that students ask me when writing assignments, pretty commonly, and I'll tell you the same thing I tell them. What if there was a document that told you not only exactly what your markers want from you, but exactly what you needed to do to get the grade you wanted? Those documents exist. They are called Markschemes, and they're what we use to mark your work and make sure that we're all standardizing and harmonizing our marking. Now, these are not secret documents that are hidden from students. A quick Google search reveals the marking documents for UCL, Bristol, UEA, and Reading. If you can't find your mark scheme, ask your lecturers and your department why. You should be able to see them. What do mark schemes look like? Well, I've created one that's entirely fictitious for this video. Do not use this to check your own work against. Use the one your institution provides you with. This is what we call a grid or rubric mark scheme. What it contains is a series of criteria of things that we want you to do in your assignment, and then just how well you'd need to do them to get the grade you want. Let's look at them in a bit more detail. First, we have your ability to answer the question, or can you follow instructions? I actually have a separate video on answering the question, it's so important. What do you need to do to make sure you're answering the question at a first class grade? Well, we're looking for a direct, focused and precise response that consistently builds a sophisticated and original answer to the question. So it's that consistency, you're completely focused on the question throughout. There is a sophisticated response and it's original. If you were going for a 2-1, we'd be looking for a direct response to the question. It's still focused, it might not have that originality or sophistication. For a 2-2, it's probably still going to be a reasonably relevant question, but you might occasionally be drawing on irrelevant material. As we go down the grading criteria to a 3rd, there might be some pretty inconsistent attempts to engage with the question, and you bring in material that doesn't always actually engage with the question or isn't particularly relevant. If you failed your piece of work, there would obviously be little or no engagement with the question. What this should show you is that it's very possible to write a great essay, but if it doesn't answer the question particularly well, it's really going to hamstring your mark. Next, we have your use of empirical examples. So how well are you using case studies in your work? How well are you drawing on statistics and other evidence? For a first class mark, we are looking for excellent presentation of relevant and original case studies. You're able to write succinctly and you're able to analyse them with depth and flair. And they are your own original case studies. You found them and they haven't come from the lecture slides. For a 2-1, we're looking for a good presentation of relevant case studies. There'll still be some detailed empirical information, but it won't be as brilliant as that first class mark, but you still will be linking to the question in academic literature. For a 2-2, we'll probably be finding that you're lacking detail in places. There's not enough detail and there's a lot of description. Your examples will probably be unoriginal. For a 3rd, your material is probably not particularly well presented at all. You're very heavily relying on the lecture slides and everything you're writing is descriptive. There's very little evidence of your ability to analyse case studies. For a fail, it's probably that you're using an entirely descriptive approach. You're just repeating what you've heard in the lecture slides. There's no originality and you're relying heavily on what we've already given you. What about if we were looking at your engagement with academic literature? I often get asked by students, how many readings is enough? Well, I won't put a number on that, but I can tell you that for a first class mark, we're looking for a broad, relevant range of reading that shows a depth of understanding and is confidently able to comment on the work of other scholars. So it's not just how many papers you use, it's actually what you do with those papers and how you're able to weave them into your arguments that matters. For 2-1, we're looking for some competent insight, some ability to understand. You won't have that flair and you won't have that ability of the first class answer, but you'll be able to competently analyse papers. For 2-2, it might be that you're just starting to describe things a bit more. You're bringing in the readings, but you're not actually giving us the insight that we need to give you those high grades. And then as we get towards the lower grades, there's probably far fewer readings, there's far fewer academic articles or book chapters, and it's probably turning into an essay which is not very critical. For a fail, there's probably going to be no relevant readings. You're going to be relying heavily on things like news articles, irrelevant sources. And finally, style and presentation of your writing, so what this channel is primarily concerned with. For a first class mark, we'll be looking for a succinct, competent writing style that shows an excellent grasp of spelling, coherence and grammar. You will consistently be formatting your assignment to university regulations. For 2-1, we'll be looking for a grasp of spelling and grammar, but you won't have that excellent grasp. You'll still be maybe making some errors in here. There'll probably be some grammatical errors, some typos, and you'll mostly be formatting your essay according to our standards, using the right fonts, sizes, page margins, things like that. For 2-2, you should still be able to communicate, but it might be that your sentences aren't as clear as they can be, they might not be as concise as they can be, and you're not always formatting your work correctly. For 3rd, we'll probably find that actually your ability to write is pretty poor, and it's actually hindering your coherence. It's actually impeding my ability to understand what you're saying. You probably won't have formatted the university, you won't have used the university's regulations particularly well. And for a fail, your writing will actually be unintelligible, and we won't be able to follow your argument at all, and you won't have bothered to format your work. So that is a run through for a fictitious mark scheme. Now, real world mark schemes from universities are often much more detailed than that. I made that one quite short for the sake of brevity for this video. But when you are using mark schemes, make sure that you're checking your work against the grades you'd like, and you can use them to really hone in on what is missing from your work and what you're doing well. I've been Dr. Joe Thorogood. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on Remarkable.